The Britfag Saga, Act 2, Chapter 1. Hello Tarddom, my old friend. They thought it would end with just Act 1. We were just getting started. Ladies and gentlemen, Tards of all overclocked and underclocked chromosome levels, I'm happy to announce that I have returned from my exile, and I bring more tales of Tarddom, subterfuge, warfare, and intrigue. This act takes place after the long summer of my first year in secondary school, after the Brown Banquet and the banishment of the Tards. Without further ado, let us go forth once more on a journey through time and space. Be me, Britfag, 1 year less autistic, back to school, back to hell. Spent the summer barbecuing, gaming, and generally celebrating freedom with the round table. Absolutely no sign of the Tards for the whole summer. Feels good, man.jpg. Reminisce later. Be me, Britfag. Still 1 year older and 1 year less autistic. It's September though. Back to school. Feels bad, man.jpg. Every year there's an all-school assembly at the start of the year that everyone has to attend, on pain of detention. The whole school was crammed into the auditorium for another one of Fuck Puppet's oh so enthralling liberal agenda-filled speeches. Fuck Puppet addresses the school on the events of the Brown Banquet and the Great Riot, proclaiming that all violent behavior will be met with expulsion, permanent removal from the school's syllabus, that racism won't be tolerated, and that teachers will be patrolling the corridors every day. The game has evolved. Challenge accepted.gif. Then it happens. Like chlamydia or the herpes, they have returned. In walks 10 Tard Wranglers, leading 30 of the fucking things. This asshole is trying to kill us all. The stench alone is equivocal to mustard gas, and the entire spectacle would be enough to flay the weaker-minded members of the crowd. Looking around, I picked out the members of the round table in the crowd. Locking eyes with each of them, one at a time, I pulled them from the crowd, out into the courtyard, across the bridge from the main reception. Leading them away from the auditorium windows and to the back of the sheds, we could hear the uproar that a very loud majority of the students were making. They were pissed, and they weren't going to tolerate it. We agreed that things were difficult, that this wasn't a trial run that could be easily sabotaged. Fuck Puppet has them integrated in the school systems now. We needed a miracle, or a cataclysm, something far more drastic than a riot and an outbreak of the shits. We went about the day as normal, trying to avoid the Tards. The best thing we could do is bide our time and watch cautiously. After the riots, there was a colossal rift between all the races in the school. Niggers ganging up on Asians, Somalians harassing Pakis. Nobody broke away from their packs through fear of an unprovoked attack, and they wouldn't raise a hand against the principal's precious plantation of potatoes. Days turned to weeks, and weeks into a month. In that time, there were 5 kids expelled for being caught in altercations, or for striking Tards. We were losing ranks fast, so I did the unthinkable. By this time, puberty had hit me like a truck, and growth spurts were rampant. I was already 6'2" by the time I was 11, and by this time I was 13. None of the race gangs even tried attacking me, after some scrawny Packy kid tried to. Probably the Packies trying to initiate him by having him put me through the ringer, but I digress. I spent that month scouting the different gangs, watching them, figuring out who was who and where they went, their lockers, the bathrooms they used, their classes, everything. None of them could move without me knowing. Then, in the middle of the 4th week, I struck. Much like the Brown Banquet, I had delivered a series of unmarked letters to their ringleaders. There were a total of 5 gangs in my school, and they all had some kind of shady dealings going on. I had invited them to the back of the gym for a meeting with the round table, and they all showed up. Be me, almost a month after day 0. Be at the back of the gym with the round table and the race gang leaders who will be referred to as Big Shaq, Colonel, Wee Dafty, Jesse, DeCaptain, and Chairman Chang. Race gangs don't like each other. Race gangs bickering. Stacy Chan shouts, "Shut it!" Be impressed. Be the boss. Explain that I've called them all here to bring attention to the forced presence of the tards in our school, and that this is a threat they and their subordinates should all be concerned about. Packy Kid, wee Dafty, thinks he's smart and makes a your mom joke. I fucking yeet that motherfucker in the face. Anyone else who speaks out of turn like that will get the same. This is a serious discussion. I wouldn't have gathered you all the way I did otherwise. Continue by informing the 5 leaders how it was I who orchestrated both the riot and the outbreak of the shits last year. Big Shaq nearly loses his shit for the second time in his life as he discovers it was a white kid who made him shit his pants. Explain to them that it was all part of a plan to eliminate the tards, and that the rest of the round table were in on it. Jesse, a Caucasian stoner kid from a year above us, looks at us with a mix of nigga what and oh fuck on his face. Chairman Chang then smirks and interjects with, I can see where this is going. You want us to join your little gang. I explain that he's only half right, and that while their support is necessary for the plan, their allegiance to the round table is not. I offer them an armistice, a mutually beneficial ceasefire that they will deliver to their subordinates, alongside orders to turn their attention to the tards, to do everything in their power to make life hell for them, and to get them to go ballistic. That everyone is to cover for one another, and generally make it difficult to nigh on impossible for Fuck Puppet to expel them. Chang is impressed. Big Shaq is scared but agreeable. Jesse is too big to refuse. Wee Dafty was too much of a bitch to puss out on this deal. DeCaptain was not DeCaptain anymore. After the weekend, peace broke out between a majority of the students. Everyone was focused on making the tards' lives hell, and getting them expelled from the school. It was slow going, and we wouldn't see any tard expulsions until halfway through the year yet again. A very loud and equally intolerable minority of the 10 gang's members refused to cooperate and simply fought amongst themselves. Regardless, we had united the clans, and turned them towards a single target. People were called in by senior staff and the principal, but they couldn't touch anyone on account of too many conflicting stories, and students vehemently protesting that they didn't do nothing. Even I was pulled into Fuck Puppet's office for questioning a few times. He didn't get anywhere with his investigations. While I hadn't lied, I hadn't told the entirety of the truth to him either. He had cameras everywhere this year and caught me. The round table, and the race gang's leaders behind the gym. Accusations of plot and prejudice were thrown by him yet again, and I simply told him that I was getting tired of all the different races being at each other's throats. So I did a bit of research and figured out who the leaders were. I invited them to the back of the gym for a little discussion, explained to them that what they were doing is wrong and that there's no need for the senseless bickering and attacks. We came to a mutual agreement. This churned Fuck Puppet's butter in a good way, apparently. Said that he might have been wrong about me, and that I might be able to help him with an issue he's been having. But that, my friends, is a story for another day. The Britfag Saga, Act 2, Chapter 2, Through the Puppets and the Tards. We left off just after I omitted the plot to making tard life hell, through the union of all races against them. Fuck Puppet bought my lie about there being multiculturalism in the school, when in truth it was just racists being racist towards tards. I was unimpressed by Principal Fuck Puppet's idea of me helping him. At the time I had thought to myself, fuck you, you liberal faggot. I'd sooner slurp diarrhea dog shit through a chlamydia-riddled whore's panties than help you. What Fuck Puppet was asking for was for me to help him weed out all of the people who had been attacking the tards, and report them into him. My face went. Outright tell him to, quote, eat a bag of decaying raccoon anuses. Get given a week of lunchtime isolation, starting that lunchtime be monitored for the whole week by staff. Can't even take a shit in peace anymore. The shit I do for you normies.gif. Be me, day 3 of isolation. Deputy head has to go and shit. Tells me to stay where I am and walks off. I get bored and sit back doing nothing. Look around and that's when I see it. Fucking hell, they picked Gigatard to be part of the insurgency. This fat fuck evolved from an overgrown spud to a morbidly obese pedophile, unshaven, unwashed, and quite honestly making an absolute biohazard of the door. Feeling physically sick at how this grotesque black puddin'-looking motherfucker is grinding his grease-coated body against the door. Didn't even realize his trousers are sagging. How the fuck are they sagging? This thing is smashing its chromosome cannon against the glass now. Lord save me.bnp. Remember the window above me, despite them being isolation rooms, they have big windows. Something to do with emergency fire safety. There wasn't a fire, but this was still an emergency. Fuck the principal. This thing looks like it wants to fuck me. I move the teacher's desk up against the door and then climb out the window, bag and all. I should probably mention that I was on the 3rd floor of the school building. That and they had some form of metal bar structure above each window of each floor of the building, clinging to this ledge like Assassin's Creed. If this fall doesn't kill me, then that fat fuck will, I thought to myself. Drop the base.gif. Drop down only 5 feet, and successfully stick the landing despite the bars being uneven. The bars clank loud enough for the whole school to hear. People start panicking as they see me. Round Table were the first to the scene. What on earth are you doing up there, you absolute madman? Just hanging around. I continue to descend. Tard breaks through the barricade, reeing like a tard. Tries to climb down after me. The actual fuck.sped. Fucking bail off the 2nd floor canopy. Fall just over 10 feet. Remember what Assassin's Creed taught me. Bend those knees, tuck and roll. I climb to my feet. Randos and Round Tables clearly worried about the fall. Give 0 fucks and apparition my position the fuck out of there. Round Table follows suit. Normies scream as this tard falls from the 3rd fucking floor canopy, like an absolute tard. And the ground did shooketh as the great Tato fell from the heavens. This thing doesn't bend his knees. This thing doesn't even tuck and roll. Full on, belly flops. Into the concrete. Saw this from the side of the AstroTurf field. This looks bad, Britfag. Quick, to the Brit Cave. Hide inside the gym supply shed for the rest of lunch. Find out that Gigatard was hauled off in an ambulance about 20 minutes later. My face when I indirectly killed the tard. My face when another tard bites the dust. Principal is fucking livid. Been hiding out in the library with Lad and Beaver during a gap between periods. Bros mutually agree that the best option is to fuck out of here. Abscond.spurb. Get back home 30 minutes after school kicks out for the day. Mom instantly grills me about how I have potentially murdered a student. Explain the situation carefully and calmly to her. That I was not only worried for my life, but also my innocence. I explained that the Gigatard was left unmonitored yet again and that he blocked my only terrestrial exit. I explained that I had climbed out the window and down the canopies in order to escape with as little conflict as possible, and that by the time I was on the 2nd floor canopy, it had broke through and was climbing out the window. Mom, not being a liberal fucknut, understood the situation, even allowed me to call the Round Table about what had happened so she could hear witnesses. I wasn't punished. Principal Fuckpuppet got an almighty roasting for lying about her to me, pushing a tard out of the top floor window. Fuckpuppet still excluded me for another week. I spent the rest of the week doing whatever the fuck I wanted. Whenever I wasn't doing homework, my buds passed to me. I might be a good boy and I might hate tards, but I'm not lazy. Stay in school, kids. The Britfag Saga, Act 2, Chapter 3, Champions Rise. It was a week before the Christmas holidays when I returned to the school, and when I did, I had discovered that things had gone from bad to worse. Be me, Britfag. Be cold, marching down into school because of the snowfall. Tard bus couldn't get up the hill again. Fuckmylife.jpg. Get into school and meet with Lad to get brought up to pace. Things went to shit when I left. Not only did Fuckpuppet crack down on people harder than ever, but now nobody was allowed to use the bathrooms without a member of staff in attendance. Can't even shit in peace anymore.iso. For you see, Tardtails, in my absence and in the wake of Gigatard's ultimate defeat, the Tards did the unthinkable. According to the reports I had received, 5 Tards occupied the 2nd floor central junction bathroom and destroyed it. Mirrors were smashed, sinks broken, and all the toilet cubicles were broken apart. Yet again, the regular students were blamed, and the leaders of each gang were expelled for it. A grave darkness loomed over the entire school that winter. No longer could niggers deal weed and Packies sell knives. Asians had to create dead drops for their shady homework answer dealings, and in winter, that was impossible. Much like the Great Tard War that happened across the pond, the school's entire underground was shut down in a single move. The ceasefire was broken, and people went back to getting at each other's throats. Only the Round Table was left to deal with the Tard menace, and we were outnumbered. We were running out of options, and our hands were tied by Fuck Puppet and his regime. I had reached my limit. A great rage burned within my soul at the way my arch-nemesis had undone a year of work by removing my presence for only a week. He made this personal. That day I laid low and ordered the Round Table to disband until further notice. Whenever I wasn't in class, I was casing the main reception and the corridor behind it, learning Fuck Puppet's movements. During morning break, he went down onto the ground floor to take a piss. In that time, I slipped into his office and took one of the keys to said office. This would be step one of what would be this year's great game. Putting the backup key into the lock, I slinked away back into the shadows. At lunch, he took 20 minutes to eat and 10 minutes patrolling the halls, as per an agreement with staff to make work a little easier on them. This was promising to my plan. Staying back later, with my mother convinced that I was with my friends, I monitored his activity from the library. He left at 3:50, 40 minutes after school kicked out. Returning home, I made a stop in the town's market and had several duplicate keys cut from the original. When I got home, I got in touch with some of my hacker friends on how to sabotage his computer. They essentially gave me a few lines of code I could inject into his user account on the network to make it so that every time he signed in, it automatically signed him out. Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto.exe. The next day came, not too long after. With my key to his office in hand, I went forth to ruin his life. The morning was quiet for the most part, but for lunch that day there would be a serving of justice. Initially, I had left the school grounds and switched out of my uniform after having dropped off a grocery bag of clothes by the hedges surrounding the school. Coming back down, I went back to my monitoring post and approached his office from there. Unlocking his door, I grinned to myself. No cameras, no evidence. Taking out the portable hard drive I had prepped for this operation, I took a seat and began running through his files. Jesus Christ. There was so much interracial porn saved in his documents. This guy was a liberal, a cuck, a Tard sympathizer, and above all else, what I would later discover to be a sex pest. Why am I not surprised? .mp4. I downloaded all of his porn, checked his emails. This guy messaged prostitutes and call girls using his school email. Getfucked.png. Download copies of these emails. Install my crash bug file to his network storage. Open up Notepad like a scrub and type, "The exile of the innocent shall not go unpunished." 3edgy5me.exe. Take my hard drive when suddenly Principal Fuck Puppet appears. I was wearing my hood and a paintball mask at all times. Climb onto the window ledge. Fucking leap of faith out of there. Fat Packy Kid breaks my fall. Thank fuck for that. Principal is now screaming at me to come back before radioing the staff. I am fucking gone, mate.gif. Get out of there and get to the woods from last year. Switch out back into uniform and bury the bag. Put my hard drive into one of the combat trouser pockets and go into the village. Mission success. Phase 2 initiate. Tomorrow. The Britfag Saga. Act 2, Chapter 4. Who is the Masked Marauder? After my close call with the cretinous commandant of our school, I took time to slow down. Now with all of my information, I could do some real damage inside and out of school hours. I went to a local computer hardware shop and bought a case full of the cheapest USB sticks I could buy, big enough to hold all of the porn Fuck Puppet had watched. I also bought a full pack of paper and enough envelopes to mail the entire school. Fuck Puppet tore down my work. Now I was going to tear off his mask and expose him. Be the Britfag. Be awake earlier than normal. Leave a note letting my folks know I was going in earlier than usual to help a friend who hadn't completed his homework. Take one train and a bus to the other side of the city. Get to school 1 hour before classes begin. Was wearing my disguise all the way there. Sneak in through one of the doors with a dodgy maglock. With only 1 hour to do my dirty deeds, I acted with the speed of a cheetah, and my righteous fury of a paladin driven berserk with holy wrath. Letters were slipped in through the vents on locker doors, printouts of Fuck Puppet's browsing history, his correspondence with expelled students' families, even screenshots of the tards sabotaging the second-floor central bathroom were plastered all over the school's lockers. By the time the lockers had been papered with anti-tard propaganda, it was 10 minutes before school officially opened. Be me, Britfag, the edgy Avenger. Just finished exposing Fuck Puppet. One task left. Go to the offices of each deputy and the principal. Leave an envelope on each of their desks with a black handprint on the front. Have another close shave with the principal as he sees me perched on the ledge. Masked to the nines and looking right at him when I speak with my best edgelord voice.
I see everything.
Fucking Batman out of the window. Grab the bridge's ledge and drop down from a more tolerable height. Book it out of the school, fast. The game is afoot. .gif. Retreat to my forced hideaway across the way and don my uniform before returning to the building with the rest of my peers. Everyone is laughing themselves into an aneurysm. Whole crowds of people in hysterics as they read the propaganda. Principal Fuck Puppet is livid. Deputies are horrified. Teachers are all having a good giggle about it. You just got pranked, bro. .mp4. A few members of the round table asked me if I did this. I don't know what you're talking about, nigga.jpg. I'm pretty sure the squad knew it was me. Nobody else had the balls to do something this batshit. Just as we were about to head to form, the whole school was summoned for another emergency assembly by Fuck Puppet. Tards and all. Fuck Puppet, as I'm sure you all know by now, had a raging hard-on for overly dramatizing everything bad that happened to him or his precious fucking tards. When everyone was in, he opened with, "I'm sure you all know why you've been called in for an assembly this morning. It's been plastered all over the walls." Yeah, no shit. "I would like to first begin by stating for the records that what you have seen is entirely untrue, and that there is a full investigation into this vile attack on my reputation. I am not a degenerate." The usual suspects, myself included, sat there and smirked to one another, as we knew a politician's cover-up act when we saw it. "And when the culprit is found, I will be pressing charges and they will be expelled. This masked marauder has invaded the sanctity of my school twice now without repercussion. Any information that leads to his capture and arrest will be rewarded. There will now be a mandatory daily locker search until the culprit is found. If anyone has anything to say, or the culprit wants to reveal themselves, now they may do so." There was a deafening silence over the auditorium until I stepped forward. "I've got something to say about this." I then lightly squatted and ripped the fattest gasser, a fart, that the school had ever heard. A full-on 20 seconds of me simply unleashing the beast from below into the room as loudly and aggressively as I could. It clapped my cheeks so hard I was feeling a bit sore afterwards, but it was worth it. As much as people were repulsed by the act, it was a legendary happenstance that had people laughing for the rest of the year. It earned me a whole day in isolation. Still worth it. So I sat there for a full day having my lessons brought to me in paper form, with one of the deputies sitting behind me, watching me. "So, this dude who's been going around causing chaos? What do you know about him, Teach?" Deputy tells me to shut up and keep doing my work. Lunchtime rolls around and the deputy goes out to have his lunch in the dining hall with the rest of the animals. I, however, had to keep an urgent appointment. Alighting from my position, I ducked into the bathrooms right next door. There I was met with a throng of horny niggers, Asians, Packies, and white kids. For you see, r/tardtails, when I took data from Fuck Puppet's computer, which was still, at this time, out of commission, I had taken all of his porn too, which I then copied onto the cheap hard drives I had purchased. The letters I had posted to everyone about getting access to Fuck Puppet's personal porn stash. In those 5 minutes alone, I had earned myself $50 in the sale of my porn sticks. These were times when Twitch and Snapchat thoughts didn't exist. It was a better time. A simpler time. With my ill-gotten gains acquired, I made myself scarce. Over the space of 20 minutes, I had visited every active bathroom and sold my porn-laced data sticks, landing myself a fat pay packet. I then returned to isolation with 10 minutes to spare before the deputy got back. Got out after lunch for good behavior. Oh, if only you knew .gif. Chill with Drummer Boy and Lad in geology, and then with Riot and Rebellion in Chem Lab before kicking out time. By the time we left, there were still a few pieces of my smear campaign left on the lockers. Some students even took them as mementos. More would come tomorrow. March out of school with my head held high and a massive shit-eating grin on my face. To close off now, I will reveal to you what was on the black handprint-marked envelopes I posted to the principal and his deputies. Inside of them were a USB stick with the cropped-down footage of the tards destroying the bathroom, alongside a sheet of paper with the words, "Who are the real victims of your leader's decisions?" Signed, the listener. The Britfag Saga, Act 2, Chapter 5. Viva la Revolution! After the first day of chaos, I knew word would not only spread of the masked marauder like wildfire, but also among the boys of the school about my now very lucrative porn trade. In preparation, I made another batch of them alongside some more propaganda, in regards to the principal and his dealings, as well as some Photoshop stuff reminiscent of Karl Marx. Be me, Britfag, the next day. Get to school early again. The masked marauder will not be deterred. Sneak in through my previous entry point. No letters to deliver this time, only justice. Sweep each floor, plastering propaganda all over the hallways, not just the lockers, but the doors and the windows too. Each floor was systematically plastered with anti-principal and anti-tard propaganda. Then came the last task. Like before, I struck each of the deputies and then the principal's offices, not just taping, but gluing my latest missives to them onto their monitors. It was quick-drying superglue, like the stuff you apply to Warhammer models. Good luck getting that off, cunt. On the paper was a screenshot of a map overview of each deputy's and principal's street. Below that was their addresses, postcode included, and below that were the words, "I know where you live. My vengeance shall be righteous. Repent for your sins." Thankfully, I had completed my work with more than enough time to escape and to redress. Much to my surprise, I also had time to get breakfast. A greasy bacon and sausage sandwich with cheese. Yummy, yummy in my tummy. Get to homeroom finishing off my sandwich as the bell rings. Morning announcements go on as normal, despite my attack. Everybody's now talking about the masked marauder. All outside are my propaganda pieces. Who is the masked marauder? Masked marauder equals Vox Populi, with a shopped image of my hooded and masked face, erased of all features that would tell of my identity. Screenshots of the cropped footage I sent the deputies, and the head, the day before, with the words, "Justice for the exiled. Who are the real victims of the principal, and the enemy you know." The principal was furious. At lunch, all the students were corralled together for bag searches. Thinking ahead, I stowed my stash in a loose panel on the side of one of the bathroom sink blocks. Just as I was preparing to be searched, there was a resounding sound of victory coming from the principal and his deputies. A year 7 I knew from primary, elementary school. Was an avid paintballer and airsofter and always carried his mask around. If you can't see where this is going, then you weren't paying attention. Fuck Puppet instantly fingered this kid with blame, furiously proclaiming that he was the masked marauder, and that his reign of terror was over. This would not stand. No more will the innocent be punished for the actions of the righteous. I stormed out of the building to the very back of the school. In a cluster of trees, I donned my guise and charged headlong into danger. At this point, I would like to invite my readers to listen to the 1990s Batman animated series intro for added effect. Bursting through the second floor southern corridor, the students all began shouting about the masked marauder, cheering on as I charged down the hall. Is this what it feels like to be a hero? Query. The deputies had already gone back to patrolling the upper floor and lower floors. Masked marauder, you are clear for takeoff. Get to the principal's office and kick the door open. The kid's eyes light up as he sees me. The principal's darken with an unbridled rage. 0 fucks given. GIF. Sprint into the room and dropkick Fuck Puppet out of his chair. Jump down on top of him. Get into his face and go full edgelord.
The innocent are under my protection. The exiled shall be returned. Their vengeance is my purpose.
Nod to the Year 7 and speak again.
Get out of here, kid.
Year 7 books it out of there as I leap up onto the window and leap out over a crowd of students who followed me. Grab the ledge and climb up before booking it out of the school. All the way out of there, the other students applauded. Running around the housing estate just next to the school, I slip in through a weak panel in the metal fencing. Switch back into my uniform and toss the bag with the disguise into a hedge beside the fence, before heading back to the gym, where it had become custom for the round table to gather. Everyone's wittering about my latest escapade, and how the principal's nose was now bleeding and that he had a black eye, that he's called the police, and other such nonsense. I was now a hero, a vigilante, a violent criminal, and a legend among the students. Unfortunately, I didn't sell any hard drives that day. Continue to give 0 fucks. Justice needs no reward. Rest of the day goes by without a hitch. I go home and I prepare for Phase 3. The Britfag Saga, Chapter 6, Masked Marauder vs. the Terror Tard Trio, aka Fall of the Fuck Puppet. After directly attacking the principal, he finally got the message and extended an invitation back to the school towards the exiled students, including their former leaders. He then went on to announce through the morning announcement system that he has done what the Masked Marauder has demanded, and pleaded for the Masked Menace to stop. No, not today, not tomorrow, and not ever. Not until every Tard is sent spiraling back to the plane of hell from whence they came. In the time I had waged war with Principal Fuck Puppet, my comrades in the round table were on Tard control, keeping the pressure on them and gathering intel. Most of the remaining 29 Tards kept their heads down, but some of them thought themselves even remotely capable of standing up to their detractors, and even Masked Marauder. Enter the Terror Tard Trio. This band of bleeding heart bellends consisted of a Mutt Downey with major anger management issues, and Tard strength that rivaled Russia's military stockpile. Let's call this one Tank, on account of his obsession with Thomas the Tank Engine. Next was Biohazard. This kid wasn't as ugly as Tank, but he looked like a hybrid Tard. Had the downs and was a hyperactive Aspie with major personal hygiene issues. Whichever poor Tard Wrangler was stuck with this kid was usually seen covering either their nose, keeping their distance, or wearing a fragranced face mask. This kid looked like he had rolled around in the muck and let the sun bake it over the ear. Always found with his hand down his trousers. Most people evacuated the hallway he was in, and the janitors were forced to follow behind this walking code brown and clean up after the trail of miasmic blight he left behind. Lastly, there was Joshua. Joshua wasn't this Tard's real name, of course, but it's such a stereotypically retarded name that I'm using it. This is because of how Joshua was a high-functioning Aspie. In my eyes, he was a traitor, and the anathema of everything I stood for. A Joker to my Batman. The Kingpin to my Daredevil. To be fair, I'm giving this guy too much credit, but you get the idea. They had been systematically attacking people under Joshua's guidance. Tank would attempt to molest any of the girls that passed by, and then act meek and timid when the staff were called, whereas Biohazard would essentially rake his muck over students' property, spreading disease and illness, causing students to remain absent in an effort to recover. Now that wall of OOG text is dealt with, let's get on with the chapter. Be me,
The Britfag. Be at school, it's lunchtime. Eat it up, you fucking filthy animals. Be chill with Lad and the lads. Eating lunch at our usual crash, top floor junction, South Passage. Copy that.cs. Recently bought myself a new coat. Charcoal camo with a hood that zipped up on the front into a mask that has tinted lenses. I feel like a badass while wearing it. Kinda look like the guy from Hellboy with the mask. Me Third Reiki.sig. Then it hits us. The three T's, Terror-Tard trio, come waddling down the halls, tarded as ever. Problem is, there's no Wrangler with them. Josh convinced those stupid liberal twats that he could handle them. Liberalbullshit.gif. Lock eyes with the little scumbag. You a bad man! And you're an embarrassment to your family. Lad and the lads do the typical super hot fire ooh as I verbally smack the excess chromosomes out of him. Tank murmurs and whines before reeing at me. Get that poo-poo! Tank waddles at us. When I say this mutt-tard is fat, I mean he is fat. Fatter than Jabba the Tard. May as well be a man-sized butterball. Walkaway.png. Josh begins reeing at us with an unfathomable level of aspy screaming as he jumps onto my back. Big mistake, fuckhead. I then jump up and fall backwards, slamming Josh into the ground. Tyrannosaurus wrecked.gif. With Josh down, the two tards were now scared, lost, and confused. And then Principal Fuckpuppet showed up. What do you think you're doing, boy? Deadpan stare at him before speaking. Doing your fucking job for you yet again, it would seem. I was just assaulted by that sniveling little bastard. Where is their wrangler? Where is their wrangler? By this point, the principal was red in the face, and I was right up in his business. Get to isolation, young man. I'm not going anywhere until these three are expelled, you cretin. They have vandalized school and student property, sexually harassed students, intentionally afflicted students with infections, and been a general nuisance ever since you brought them into the school. By this point, about 10 people were looking on, including Lad and the others. Some were even recording it on their newfangled camera phones. I simply smiled at him as he buckled, and ordered the three of them to follow him back to his office. Get fucked.mov. As he walked out, the whole audience cheered. It's good to be the king dick.doc. Spent the whole day uninterrupted after. Now, when we left off in our last chapter, you will have noticed that I said I was preparing for Phase 3. I haven't forgotten to mention what I did in the morning because I didn't actually do anything that morning. I figured I should change my tactics to avoid capture. No doubt the principal had figured out I had gotten into the school before he did. This time, I waited until the end of the day, when the last of the cleaning staff had gone. This time, I employed the help of the entire round table. 5:30, closing time. The last cleaner leaves the school. 11 students then broke in, masked and clad in black, no uniforms. 3 per floor, 5 assigned to the 3rd floor, including myself. On the 1st floor, the school's Tard HQ was plastered with peace-promoting propaganda. Posters regarding the differences between the Tards that enrolled in our school and the ones forced into the syllabus by Fuckpuppet. Posters with photos of the offending Tards, listing the multitude of felonies they had committed while in the school, which had been left unpunished. Propaganda proclaiming an uprising and a protest. Walkouts from classes and the school in its entirety. On the 2nd floor, we posted the same naming and shaming posters, as well as posters exposing the principal's correspondence to the formerly expelled students. The 3rd floor got the same treatment, but what was so special about this one was what was brewing in the chem labs. I had found a cool little trick when studying one of the old chemistry books. By mixing 2 chemicals together, can't remember which, but when they are mixed together, it produces a foul-smelling and highly reactive foam. If you can imagine a bicarb of soda volcano, multiply the reaction 3-fold, you've got the reaction this stuff causes. I had created a clever little containment unit for these foam bombs, which relied on a small sheet metal slide that divided the 2 chemicals in plastic tubes. This would be rigged to the doors of each of the Tards' lockers, and when the lock is turned, the slide will be pulled, and foam would flood and piss out of their lockers, leaving a foul smell. Once made and filled, the lockers were broken into and the traps were placed. I set them myself as the mechanisms were very fiddly and required delicate hands. Once set, the locks were put back as they were using metal wires to lift them out and roll them shut once more. Fiddly as fuck, but necessary for the plan. We all booked it out of there and went home. The next day, get to school on time and everything is intact. Not a single poster was moved. Students were all muttering about the tards and what they had done, talking about the protests. I had just successfully polarized a majority of the school into hating the tards. And this was only the beginning. Principal Fuckpuppet, as always, was livid and out for blood. Take Lad and Patient Zero to the top floor, and watch patiently as the tards unlock their doors, only to be met by thick yellow foam gushing out of the locker onto them and the surrounding area. The whole of the school erupts into laughter at this. Can you hear the children sing? Every tard was sent home after the foam bomb incident. We had a whole day of peace without them, and time to prepare our next move. In every student's locker was a black hand-marked envelope. Inside was an invitation to a rally on the AstroTurf this lunch. This wasn't something that normally happened, but after everything that went on and all the signs that the mass marauder was alive, well, and still fighting, it was like a beacon, drawing moths to a flame. Lunchtime. As always, the round table and I sat behind the gym, and watched as hundreds of students amassed to the AstroTurf. There was a noticeable number of them that didn't come, and this was to be expected. Nevertheless, this show must go on. Donning my stalker jacket and a Guy Fawkes mask, I lifted my hood and walked through the crowds with a megaphone. My memory is sketchy as to what my exact words were in this speech. I was running on adrenaline, and half a ham and cheese sandwich at the time, but it more or less went along the lines of addressing the propaganda, naming and shaming each and every single tard in the school for their crimes, a rhetoric that spawned from the question, we wouldn't get away with this, so why should they? Announcing and exposing how Fuckpuppet had pinned the blame for the second-floor junction sabotage on the people he expelled. Denouncing and branding Fuckpuppet as a threat to our health, safety, well-being, and education. Spurring the crowd and stoking the flame of rebellion. By about halfway through the speech, it evolved into a protest as teachers attempted to enter the field and stop me. I had successfully turned a vast majority of the student body on their tutors, and the tards that had oppressed them for so long. Eventually, I gave the order to march, and the whole crowd began to stampede out of the AstroTurf and out of the school. There was a huge media circus surrounding it, not to mention an outrage and, naturally, an outcry from the students' parents for the principal to resign and for the tards to be sent back to their original school. While we turned up outside the school gates, none of us went in, instead chanting a mantra of no more tards and don't blame us. For about a week we spent our days protesting outside the school, goofing off in the fields across the way, and even a small minority of the students took the liberty of making rounds in the village, asking if any shops or local people needed any help with things. Looking back on it, I feel proud of this whole situation, and the acts of kindness and solidarity it spurred on. The Britfag Saga, Act 2, Chapter 7. The Lion, the Tard, and Dude, Where's My Post? Quick summary, someone had deleted Chapter 6, but luckily he kept a record of it on his Google Drive, so I was able to go there and download it for this video. Thank you for being smart. Anyway, be me, Britfag. Still wondering what happened with Part 6. Don't be Britfag now. Be Britfag back then. Be back in class after the protests. Tards are still here, but the majority of them have been removed because of how their behavior was exposed and demonized. You don't fuck with the mask. Schmokin'. About 5 tards left because of this. Tards are criminals and belong in a G-damn asylum. Preach. The 5 remaining tards are docile. 5 remaining tards are also unwashed plague spreaders just like Biohazard. I need to get them expelled through their own filth. Suddenly I get an idea. Essentially recycle my idea from last year, but more precise in its targeting. Scout out the tards during lunch, learn their movement patterns. Tards eat lunch immediately after the lessons end. Each tard drinks the same drink at lunch every day. 2 drink Orange Fanta, 1 drinks Beepus, 1 drinks bottled apple juice, and 1 drinks a Dr. Pepper. Take note of how the Wranglers spend 2 to 3 minutes getting their lunch from the cafeteria. Perfect amount of time to strike, more than needed. Return to my regularly scheduled chill sesh on the 3rd floor. Stop by the local supermarket to pick up 5 necessary bottles and the laxatives. Get home and make the wicked elixirs of brown mayhem. The next day. Be Britfag, the brown blight spreader. Be on Tard bus this time. Be put on the same bus as the 5 Tards. JC, I'm fucking dying. Somebody open a window for fuck's sake. Why does nobody wash these troglodytes? 4 Tards in front of me left their bags under their seats. I equip my gloves. I infiltrate their bags. Replace the drinks with the wicked elixir. 5th and final Tard is asleep. Easy pickings. Deploy final elixir. Return to my default position. Remember to jump into the changing room showers as soon as I get to school, because ain't no way I'm gonna smell like a Tard. Later that day, lunchtime. Not even 10 minutes after lunch, there's a huge uproar in the cafeteria, accompanied by the sounds of reeing and screeching Tards beating each other up. Bomb detonated.csgo. Terrorists win.csgo. Party at the back of the gym with the lads. Never see those Tards again. At least not in my goddamn school. The Britfag Saga, Act 2, Chapter 8. I cry when retards deserve to die. After exiling the last 5 Tards from my school, things got quiet. I had thought that things would finally be peaceful, and I could put my Tard-slaying days behind me. How wrong I was. In spite of everything we had done to drive them out of the school, even though we made for damn sure that Principal Fuckpuppet's Tard-sympathizing days were done with, they came back for more. The events I now disclose to you take place a month later in February. Be me, the Britfag, champion of man, the prophesized pseudo-Tard autist. Be finishing up another fine and quiet day at school. The martial law policy was lifted, and things went back to the way they were. I was still making fat stacks off of my USB porn deliveries. Decided to start extrapolating porn from the internet myself. A few videos, a few pics, mix up the genres a little. I got you covered, plebpervs.porn. Flipped and tripled what I spent in USB sticks each day. Feels good, man. Don't nostalgia about porn. Nostalgia about the Tard War. Vietnam flashbacks.imminent. Leave school as usual, with bros, when Packy Girl runs back to the school building screaming. Notice she's got a huge shit stain on her shirt. Oh fuck no, not PNG. Everyone outside the gate is losing their shit as the Tards sling turds at them from across the street. Parents are going apeshit at them. Most students are running away. But not us. I take the lid off a big plastic trash can and walk out. Use it to block the shit. Tell the squad to get out of here, and that I'll catch up. Real proud bro Soldier Boy stays, because he's a real proud bro. Shit be like Captain America's Civil War up in here. Giving absolutely zero fucks as we charge into the literal shitstorm to beat these fuckers down. Blocking literal shit like a Shaolin monk. Chakras be blitzed for this fight. Shield bash and slug these mutant pig monkeys into the ground. Nearly get knocked down and dogpiled by Fat Tard, Gigatard, and the Black My Fault twins. This is what nightmares are made of. Cringe. An Asian and a Packy peel them off of me and begin beating them down. You're one of the good ones. Racism. By this point, near enough half the school was wailing on them and peeling them away from cars. Winter Soldier Boy wasn't faring so well. Outnumbered 5-1 by shit-themselves angry Downies, with 2 high-functioning Aspies leading them. Between them and me were about 10 more Tards ranging from mutts to psycho ADHD fucks. By this point I had been on and then got kicked off the school's inter-school rugby team for supposedly being too dangerous. Put it this way, I was 6'2" and still growing, strong as an ox and built like a brick shithouse. Your regular future hetero bear build. I could drag 5 students behind me without any problem, and on the field, my mentality was a simple matter of when you get the ball, run, and don't stop. Looking back on it, I would agree with them, but that's not what's relevant to what's about to happen. Shields-up.mp4. Charge.exe. If there was ever a more beautiful sight that day, I barreled through every single Tard, knocking them either into the grass verge onto the left of me, or onto the road to the right. After that, there was nothing to slow me down and nothing to stop me. Just the tarmac, the tards, and Soldier Boy. I was about 10 feet away when I shouted for him to jump out of the way. Ended up hitting the tards like a freight train. The Aspies fell into the Downies, and the Downies fell to the ground freaking out. More or less simultaneously shat and pissed themselves on the impact. Dump the bin lid and book it to the other side of the village. Jump on the bus just as the last few people get on. Ride off into the sunset with the squad. The Britfag Saga, Act 2, Chapter 9. The battle is drawn. After the attack at the school gates, there was a massive public uproar from the families of the children that attended my school. The Tards would continue to assault the school and its visitors at the end of the day for weeks to come. In this time, the round table gathered a force of students that had been assaulted by the Tards on their way out of the school. Tens grew to hundreds, and by the third week of the attacks, we had beaten them back beyond the village. Unfortunately, the village became the battlegrounds for the rest of the year, with incursions into each school's territories being the daily order. Normies were ambushed and bombarded with shit. Nerds were beaten up. Stoners had their stuff stolen, and the Tards, in their infinite stupidity, only sought to aggravate the many races of my school with racist comments. The last one obviously only earned them even harsher retaliations from our side. Niggers started ganging up on the Tards. The Packies did the same, much like the Sand People, though. They did so in far greater numbers. Cowards. The attacks were all well and good, but they didn't send a message harsh enough for the Tards to learn their place. We needed to completely destroy their morale, both inside and out. Then it came to me. A most devious and truly vile plan that even revolted my own warped sense of humor. I gathered everyone I knew who was in on this war, and relayed my plan to them. There was an inter-school rugby match happening between our school and the Hive, in the afternoon of the day of what was called a Personal Development Day. It was pretty much a day where we were subjected to different team-building and physical or mental exercises. Sounded like another one of Fuck Puppet's genius ideas on how to make the students more liberal than they already were. Nevertheless, the plan stood for the days leading up to it. The members of our cadre would shit, piss, cum, and in the case of the underage drinking chavs in the force, vomit into buckets, and mix the vile combination into the most revoltingly malodorous biotoxin. The smell alone was far more off-putting than anything the Tards had ever unleashed upon my school. By the end of the match, it had all congealed together and become a toxic slurry. Had to hide it behind my dad's garage to make sure it didn't get spotted and tossed out. Transported it on the back of my bicycle to school, held it down with bungee cords to make sure it didn't spill. Once there, I unloaded it in the tree line at the back of the school. The plan was for everyone to get super soakers, it didn't matter what kind, so long as it had a sealed tank to contain the toxins everyone had created. The day went by and the afternoon soon came. The army gathered and loaded their tools of Tard destruction with the vile concoctions, pressurizing them as high as they could for the most effect. Pressurizing the guns only made the smell become a vaporous cloud of biological impurities. Plague Marines in training. Astartes. We served Papa Nurgle today for the glory of chaos. Fortunately, I had packed one of my dad's industrial dust masks and was wearing rubber gloves. I already smelled worse than a Tard because of this operation. I wasn't going to catch whatever unholy plague we were about to unleash on them. Travel to the sports center nearby where the game is taking place. Shit looks like a pity party for the Tards. Wasn't even real rugby, just faggy tag rugby. And in typical anti-Tard fashion, our team was canning those potatoes 6 ways from Sunday. Reminisce the brief time I was on the team. What I wouldn't give to mash these potatoes into the AstroTurf. Sneak in the broadside and hide on the tree line, waiting for the perfect opportunity to drench these motherfuckers in waste. Keep the whole force in control. After a few successful tries from the home team, the Tards reach their limit and deploy their secret weapons, substituting half of their team for the biggest, fattest, and most grotesque mutt-tards you've ever seen. For those of you who know what they are, imagine an orc gargant made out of twisted flesh and misaligned facial features. For those out of the loop, imagine if Fat Bastard from Austin Powers had the Downs and some serious genetic defects. These monstrosities didn't even care. Once one of them had the ball, they ran. Can walking sacks of butter even run? Either way, they moved in a hastened manner towards the goal. Good God, these tards stank. There was a distinct difference in odors between our weapon of choice and their naturally repulsive odor. That was about to change, however. Rush B. The whole team had ran and scored a try because of one particularly large mongoloid, and they were all grouped together. I gave the signal, and like a swarm of rats, we swept the field and rained down liquid blight upon the tards, painting them from head to toe and soaking the field in a toxic puddle of human refuse. The ref, the staff in attendance, and even the tards' parents were horrified as they saw the mists of our collective sewage ripple high into the air and permeate the fields and the center with its odor. If it wasn't for the tards going apeshit and collectively shitting and pissing themselves as they beat each other up, we wouldn't have got away from them and the adults. Beating a retreat into the trees once more and up through the woods, onto the field across the way from our own school, we all cheered at the tremendous victory we had claimed over the tards. We burned the super soakers and the remaining slurry inside of them on the field and ran for the buses. Everyone stank of shit, and worse afterwards, but it was so worth it. Every single tard that attended that match spent a month off sick. Play of the game, Britfag as Britfag. Had to use the abrasive hand sanitizer from my dad's garage to clean the stench of 1,000 unwashed taints off of me. Came out of the shower as red as a lobster, but I smelled like oranges and cream. For a couple of days, the sports center was shut down for a biohazard deep cleaning maintenance. For the month and half a week after the tards vanished, there was peace. The Britfag Saga, Act 2, Chapter 10. The Final Confrontation. Be me, the Britfag, the Toxic Avenger, the Champion of Nurgle. Be 1.5 months later since the Battle of the Blighted Fields. Chillin' like a villain in the middle of lunch break, when a massive commotion can be heard on the tennis court. Oh God, why .jpg? Go and check it out with Lad, Soldier Boy, and Riot. The tards. They're back. A whole gang of tards had stampeded into the school and onto the tennis courts, where the school's all-girl tennis athletes were training for some kind of tournament. A lot of the guys, myself included, would ogle these girls as they practiced. They had all of the gear. You know, like the one-piece sports dresses, sun visors, and stuff. That shit's hot. Don't be a perv now. Be a perv later. Save the cheerleader, save the world. Fuck, I'm old. The squad and I split up, as always. The real dude bros of the round table, myself and Soldier Boy, team up on the lower court, while the other two handled the ones further up. There was about 3 of them on the court we attended to, and 3 more on Lad and Riot's court. Then it made itself known. Enter Willem the Weeb. As you probably guessed, this tard is a weeaboo. But this kid went beyond the regular confines of being a weeaboo and a tard. This kid had heard the legends of the Britfag. He wore one of those Naruto headbands, and even fucking dressed like the little blonde spastic. The tards were being a general menace towards the girls, trying to grope or even rape them, damaging or dirtying their clothes and equipment. But this guy, oh man, he had an entire fucking monologue prepared. He starts monologuing. I don't give a fuck, fam. Wail on the other 2 tards while this motherfucker keeps rattling on. Leave the mashed potatoes on the ground when we're done. Catching bits and bites of this stupid cunt's monologue all the while.
I've heard a great deal about you, Britfag. You and your clan of warriors.
Warriors? Clan?
You're nothing more than a disease, a plague upon this land.
Speak for yourself, you fucking retard.
And I am the cure. Prepare to be defeated.
You fucking what, mate? Weebtard full-on Naruto runs at me. Then I fucking see it. This motherfucker has a tail on his belt. When you are chosen by the gods to banish a weeb and a furry at the same time. Give this kid a few seconds to reach me. I'm not even kidding. This kid ran at the same speed I could walk back then. I then swung my leg up and slammed my foot into his jaw. Knocked him head over ass backwards, then heel kicked him in the nuts on the backswing.
The noise this fucker made. When you end someone's entire bloodline for gits and giggles. Whole tennis team was cheering at this point. Can tennis even have a team of players? About to walk away and let the teachers deal with these fuckers when the weebtard gets back up.
Get back here and fight me. I'm not done with you yet.
The non-existent nuts on this kid. I've got classes to attend. You want to finish this? Then let's finish it on the fields after school, you fucking piece of weeaboo trash. Bring your friends. I want everyone to see how badly you eat shit on that field.
Okay, but I'm going to win this fight.
Fucker then Naruto limps out of there like a little bitch, with tears and snot dribbling down his face in classic tard fashion. Take some time to see if the girls were okay and stick around until the teachers show up. Lunch ends not long after. Fast forward through double computer lab. Kicking out time, and everyone in school was waiting at the top of the path onto the main road. Word of a battle between the school's hero and some crazy tard circulated fast. I normally didn't dare get myself contaminated with tard matter, but the fact that this kid had the audacity to challenge me again after I had castrated him was enough to make an exception. The scene was like something out of a stereotypical 80s action movie. All the way to the fields, the clouds gradually got darker and thicker, until there was thunder. It then pissed down rain when I arrived, and within a few minutes the fields were a muddy mess. The smell of burnt shit and plastic still lingered, and as I told him, he brought every tard I ever faced to his own public execution. This motherfucker then tries monologuing in the rain and thunder, when you don't keep calm and carry on. Straight up rush the weeb tard onto his ass, rugby tackle him into the mud and pin him. Proceed to beat his face into a mangled and bloody mess in front of everyone. Knocked a few teeth out and a couple more loose. Spent about 2 straight minutes rearranging this guy's face into the ultimate fuck you to the tards. Get up after and kick him in the side so he rolls over. Rub his face into the mud and then give him another kick in the chops, before walking forward and giving my own monologue to the tards. This is what happens when you fuck with us. This is what you get when you come into our hood and try to make our lives hell. Don't ever come near my school again. Otherwise, the next person won't be getting up. And with that, I walked away. Found out a couple days later that that kid was taken to the hospital and had to have all his teeth removed. Not a single tard came near us for the rest of that year. A big thank you to Reddit user The Cushy for writing these stories. You're doing a great job.